back to my channel, Beautiful Minutia. If you're new here, my name is Tiffany, and today I'm starting a very short little vlog. Today is Friday, September 6th, which apparently is National Read a Book Day. I decided to start a weekend reading challenge with my Patreon this weekend as well because of National Read a Book Day. I found out about it because it was actually on my library's calendar of events. So that is super fun. So I have plans for today. I have in fact already picked up 2 books today, Hind's Feet on High Places and Crime and Punishment, both of which I'm reading daily chapters from. But I thought since it is Read a Book Day, I'm going to try to start and finish a book today. So the book that I'm going to pick up is Son of Gold and Sorrow by Hoyle. This is actually an ARC from Owl's Nest Publishing, but you've probably heard me talk about Owl's Nest Publishing before. They publish middle grade and YA books that feel like super age appropriate, which is something that I really appreciate about them. This is the 3rd of KB Hoyle's fairy tale retelling series. So the first one was essentially like a gender bent Little Mermaid, and it was really good. And I own the second one, but I haven't gotten to it yet, but I don't think that they need to be read in order. I think that they're all standalone, although I guess I'll find out once I read this one. But I'm gonna read you a little bit about what this is about. James has always been selfish, arrogant, and unserious. Even when he's tried to do better, he's feared the folly and mixed motivations that lurk within his heart. So when the Princess Aurelia, whom he tormented as a youth, enlists his help traveling a hard road to her homeland, he agrees more out of compulsion than compassion. Little does James know his reluctant decision to give aid to the princess will change his life forever. When Princess Aurelia stumbles upon Lord James in the enchanted Black Forest of Ravinia, she sees in him the desperate chance she needs to escape a cruel father and a cursed engagement to a wicked man. Placing her hope in James, though, comes with its own entanglements, not the least of which is her traitorous heart. As their road grows dark and dangerous, she must not only hope in him, but also trust him with her deepest secrets. So that's kind of the little blurb on the back here. So I don't know what fairy tale this is supposed to be retelling because it's not really clear to me on the back. I thought when it said gold, like maybe there's some Rumpelstiltskin elements, but then there's a fox on the cover. And I'm trying to think of what fairy tales have to do with foxes. I don't really know. Anyway, Owl's Nest Publishing so graciously sent this to me, and I think it's releasing in either October or November. I'll share the date on that, but I'm really excited to pick this up and hopefully read all of it throughout the day. It's under 300 pages. It's 275 pages exactly. So I feel like it's potentially achievable because this is the first day in literally weeks that I don't have somewhere to be outside my house. So I have to do school with my daughter and I have a live show this evening, but other than that, my afternoon is free and parts of my morning will be free as well. So I'm hoping to read as much of this as possible, and I'll try to update you throughout the day as to what my initial thoughts are. I just wanted to do a little check-in for Son of Gold and Sorrow. I'm like 80 pages in. I think I've finished the first 6 chapters. So this does tie in with the other 2 books in this series, and that like in the very first chapter, Rose is mentioned, who is one of the protagonists in the first book in this series, and then we also see a girl who I think is a protagonist in the second book in the series. But like I said, I didn't read that one, but she kind of plays more of a transient role. But the boy James, who is one of the male characters of this book, was a side character in Son of the Deep. He was best friends with like the female protagonist, and then apparently he plays a role in the second book as well because he's traveling with and knows and is assisting the girl from book 2. So I, again, have not read book 2, and it was fine because that played like a smaller role in this book. So it was okay, I think. I don't feel like it was too much of a loss for me to have not read the second book. So the princess in this book, Aurelia, is basically under like a contract to be married to an older man who's like 20 years older than her, and he's someone who is not a very good guy, and her father is not a very good guy, the king, and so he betroths her to marry one of his high-ranking officials. But the way that he makes her sign the contract then curses her, and we find out more about the curse as we go, but she has no way of breaking this contract because it's an enchanted contract, because her father is also a sorcerer. And so she does like a counter contract to try to counteract it, where she says that if this man that she's betrothed to wants to marry her, he has to fulfill these 4 things, and if he tries to marry her without fulfilling these 4 things, she'll die. So she runs away, and then we pick up with her later once she is like kind of unwittingly found herself with this band of thieves who are not very nice to her, and she's trying to figure out a way to escape from them when she comes across James, a boy who has like tormented her when she was younger. She recognizes him, but he doesn't recognize her, and she concocts kind of a plan for them to be able to escape from these thieves together. So then from here on out, we've been following the 2 of them, and it's really interesting because this is definitely like a combination of like enemies to lovers, but also insta-love, because they fight like cats and dogs and are rubbing each other wrong like the whole time, and that actually started the very first time they met each other, and yet there's definitely some physical attraction going on like from the very first moments. Those are not my favorite tropes when it comes to this kind of thing, but I'm really fascinated with the area where they are and the whole things of like these enchanted / cursed contracts and some of the creatures that they're encountering. It's kind of creepy. They're in like this really dark forest. And this book, I looked, is coming out in October. So this feels like a perfect fall and October read. There are like some evil fairies in the forest where they are. I don't think this is spoilery because it's only 50 pages in, but I want to read you just a little quote that describes one of these evil fairies because it is like deliciously spooky. It says, "It was a fairy, clearly, but like Aurelia had told him about the creatures west of the river, something wickeder. Green-skinned and 6-fingered and cloven-hooved with curling horns coming out of its oily black hair, the fae was like James didn't know what. Indistinguishably male or female, it was between Aurelia's size and his, with liquid black eyes too large for its face, and a mouthful of needle-like fangs." It's like, I love it because it just feels like a dark fairy tale without it actually feeling like truly horrifying. We've also got a little bit of Russian folklore type things peeking its head in with a Baba Yaga type villain that pops up, and it's just really fun so far. There's just a lot of suspense that's happening, a lot of fairy tale elements that are really fun. I still don't know what fairy tale this is supposed to actually be imitating, but I did find out the fox on the front. So when Aurelia leaves her home, there's a maid who's her best friend who has rescued this little fox cub and raised it, and she gives it to Aurelia so that way she's never truly alone. And the fox like stays with her and protects her, and they're like really, really close, and the fox's name is Frisk. And it's so cute. I really like that element. So yeah, so I still don't know what fairy tale, if this is supposed to be emulating a specific fairy tale or because it's culminating in a story for James, who's appeared in the first 2 stories. If maybe it's supposed to be its own thing and not pulling from one specific fairy tale, unlike Son of the Deep, which pulled from The Little Mermaid, and Son of Bitter Glass, which pulled from The Snow Queen. So I'm not sure. Maybe I'll figure out more as I go, or maybe it's a fairy tale that I'm less familiar with and there are elements I should already be able to recognize if I knew it. So we'll just have to wait and see. But this feels like a really good fall read so far. Hello friends, I am back. It is no longer Friday, which is probably clear. So that means I did not finish Son of Golden Sorrow on National Read a Book Day, but that's okay. I got a little over halfway and then I finished it on Saturday, so it's actually Sunday morning when I am updating you here. But I wanted to give you my final thoughts on this book because I kind of shared my thoughts along the way. So I will say that this feels like very romantic-y, which makes sense because it's a fairy tale, and that's not a genre that I typically pick up. I do think that there was like a really quick falling in love in this book. I was expecting it to be more of an enemies to lovers trope based on the beginning, but the enemies phase was super short. Part of that was kind of insta-lovey based on, you know, physical attraction, and so I was kind of like, oh, that's not how I wanted this to go. But as the story progressed, I became kind of surprised at the depth of the love that the two main characters have for one another. And it wasn't just this, oh, I love you, I would die for you. Like, there is a depth of sacrifice within this book of things that they're willing to give up. And it really feels like true love in a sense that it's not like, oh, I just love this person so much because they're so hot. Like, it's very much putting the other person's benefit ahead of their own and really sacrificing, which is a hallmark of true love. And I just really liked the depth of their love and their relationship and care for one another. I think that there is an overarching theme of love making people better and making them see outside of themselves, because our main character James talks about how he's been really selfish in the past, and like I said, he's been in the two previous books in the series, which, by the way, I kind of lied to you because I think you do have to read the first two books in the series to fully get this. Even though I didn't read book two, I think that elements of book two were much briefer, but elements of book one definitely come in kind of strong in this book, so I think you would feel a little lost at just like certain short points. I don't think that it would mean that you can't enjoy the book at all, but definitely read the first two books. Learn from my mistake. Anyway, James, we see him in book one, is like very selfish and jealous and does a lot of things that he regrets in this book. But it's not until he really starts loving someone for real that he's pulled outside of his own selfishness. And I just found that to be really beautiful and redemptive, as well as an element of trust that develops between Aurelia and James, especially because of the fact that Aurelia has experienced a lot of physical and emotional abuse at the hands of her parents, which also James did as well at the hands of his father, which is explored a little bit in this book, but I think Aurelia's abuse is seen much more clearly in this book, as well as the man that Aurelia is engaged to is also very abusive and really horrible, manipulative, cruel, and Aurelia has panic attacks throughout the book. But I felt like they were handled so well and inserted so seamlessly. Sometimes you have a book like this that's set in a fantasy world and feels like it's from like an older time because it's a fairy tale setting, and it feels like, okay, this feels out of place here, but this doesn't at all. It talks about her freezing and feeling like completely immobile, and like James helping her through that. And so I felt like it was a really good representation of anxiety and panic attacks that made sense within the world where we are. So overall, I thought that this book was really fun. It was a good book to pick up on National Read a Book Day. There was just a lot of elements that ended up going deeper than I thought that they were gonna go at the beginning, because if you know me, you know I don't pick up a whole lot of romance heavy books, although I think that the romance in this it's not like lighthearted. It has a depth to it that I really appreciated. So if you like fairy tale retellings, or you have a teenager in your life who does, because this is a YA book, I highly recommend this series. I just think that they're really good, really fun, but they all have like a level of depth to them. Well, I guess books 1 and 3 do. I need to go back and read book 2, so I'm probably doing this book a slight disservice by having not read book 2 first. Well, that's it for this little vlog for National Read a Book Day. I would love to know if you picked up anything on National Read a Book Day, and whether or not you did, I would love to know what you've been reading lately. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please hit like and also subscribe so you can continue to see more bookish content from me, and I will see you again